In today's eMoney tip of the week, we're going to talk about education planning. This tip of the week is actually going to be split up into two different tips. I've tried about 3 or 4 times to get this into a concise one, but there's just so much to talk about when it comes to education planning, so this is actually going to be a twofer. So the first thing we want to talk about, this is our sample client, Pam and Jim Helpert, is how do we start with education planning? We always want to go into our base facts. I like to stay in base facts, do not click on advanced. If you have questions about that, go search my other eMoney tips for weeks. I talk about why I always want to stay in the base facts, because this is the environment you're going to be showing the clients, so we want to be really great at it. You're going to notice I put the children in here, so CC, which is Cecilia, and Dwight Helpert are already in here. We're going to hit add child if you need to put a new child in here, but for the sake of this purpose, I've already put it in here. I'm going to show you a little tangent here. Really, I think this is one of the great features where you can really make eMoney work harder than other financial planning software for you. So we're going to go to the client website. You have to excuse the onboarding. I put all my new clients through onboarding. I love it. One of the great features of eMoney. This sample client, it's going to put there, we're skipping that. When you have goals built out, and you have to have the goals built out, you're going to notice here that Dwight Education, we can add a photo. Add a photo of the child here. Go on Facebook. Find their child, find their grandchild, put a photo of their child in here. Encourage them to do it themselves. They can do it on their own portal. Just like you can go into the organizer tab and you can put some pictures here. I do this for clients. I also add pictures of their house in here. I'll use Google Street Maps. It's just customizing it. The more customized this is, the more it looks like you understand them, the more it looks like you are their advisor, not just some machine. It's such a great thing, especially if you meet with clients virtually. It's a great way to customize this, personalize it, give it that extra touch. I know that's a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's so important. So next thing we want to do is we're going to go down to goals, and we're going to go here and we're going to add. I've already put Dwight's in here just for the sake of time, so we're going to add Cecilia's. So we're going to go here to add education. You're going to notice it says education expense. Again, I like to make sure this is customized to my clients. If they call her CC, I might write CC in here. You can call this college expense. I don't like to. I like to use education expense. Whatever it is, as long as the client knows what it is, and more importantly, as long as it's customized. So we're going to want to make sure this is for Dwight, or should be Cecilia. If you don't have the child in there yet and you forgot that, you can always click here and add the child that way. The cool feature of eMoney, it's going to automatically default to 18 years out for 4 years education. Not everyone in your client's going to want to do that. Maybe they want to go later. Maybe they'll want to fund 2 years. But it's a great standard feature. It's going to automatically read the age as long as you put the age in there correctly. Another quick thing, sometimes I run a planning where somebody wants to plan for college and they don't have a child yet. Maybe they're planning on having a child in 3 or 4 years. I will name it Baby Helper. I'll add that. I will put their year as they're born this year. I can't do future births. Unfortunately, my doesn't have that. But guess what? You can always just put this out. Instead of going out to 18, go out to 22, go out to 24. It's going to give the same amount of time. So a really quick way to do that. It's also a great way, hey, what do you plan on naming a child? You plan on having sex? Great conversations to have. Next thing you're going to notice here, I do not click the institution state or institution name yet. The reason why I do this is a little bit of a glitch. If you go in here sometimes and you hit advanced, depending on your browser, depending on your cookies, it might not allow you to use worksheets. If you're going to use that, I like to use worksheets. If you're not using worksheet and you just want to have the logo on there, by all means put it in there. Go and put your annual amount inside of there. I'm going to leave this blank because again I'm going to use a worksheet. Index, we're going to leave it at our base assumption inflation. This is going to import, is what's going to default to based upon your IRA's capital market assumptions. Every IRA is going to have different capital market assumptions. You can override this to put custom. I know a lot of people think that education, I hear all the time, is going to be 7%. We think it's actually be deflationary. Want to argue with me? Send me a message on LinkedIn. We can talk about it back and forth. The important part is you have the basis for what your recommendation is and why you use what you used. Dedicated funding. You can go here and quickly put in, we already had the 529 plans built out. If you didn't and you had it in here, you can put 529. Also, it doesn't necessarily have to be 529. Maybe they're going to use a brokerage account. I am not going to put the funding in here. We'll come back to this in my other tip of the week. or my second version is tip of the week. Funding shortfall, yes or no? We're going to default to yes. I'll come back to that in a second. Now we're going to go in advanced. So now we have this information. I'm going to click on Worksheet here. You can also click up here. There's multiple ways to click into it. So we click Worksheet. You're going to want to go ahead and make sure, because out-of-state tuition will factor in here. I work in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania primarily. We have clients all across the United States. So I'm going to try to use an institution for that particular client that is in their state. So for example, I have clients in Ohio. I'll usually use the Ohio State University. It's an in-state tuition. It makes sense. I like to use Pitt. My company's colors are blue and gold because I'm a huge Pitt fan. So I'm always going to default to Pitt. If you know what their university is, put it in here. Another one, the husband and wife with the two universities. Make one child go to one university, one child go to the other university. This money is pulled from FAFSA, the Department of Education. It's the same information it's used for FAFSA. Might be a year or two outdated sometimes, but the bottom line is here. If you don't like it, say a client doesn't want to pay for room and board, go ahead and do this. I had a client that wanted to use a percentage of the tuition. That's all they wanted to do. So I was able to see what their tuition was and put it in here. You can always override what's in here. You can add grants, add scholarships, add any kind of outside funding. Then we're going to click on the funding tab up here. This is where, if you didn't have dedicated funding, you can add funding sources again. If you didn't do any prior one, we're not going to do that. Again, I want to show you my second version of this tip, why we're not doing that. This is the important. If you're a recovering goals-based planner, maybe you use something like Money Guide Pro or eMoney Foundational Plan, it's goals-based. This is going to be new to you. I love cash flow software. Want to know why? Go search my other eMoney tips of the week. I talk about it there. But you're going to want to make sure that this is clicked. This is going to matter a lot for your reports. If you fund the expense through normal cash flow, it's going to use any dedicated funding. So for example, it might be a 529 plan. It might be a 529 plan in their non-qualified account, whatever it is. Maybe it's nothing. When that goes to zero, it's going to pull from their cash flows. If they don't have enough in cash flow, if you're not familiar with that, go look it up, understand what the main cash flow is, look at the ledger report, understand what it's doing. It's going to go liquidate. It's going to go in order of liquidation you've set up. So we'll start to liquidate the client's investments. Some people want that, some people don't. That might damage their overall goals. Yeah, their child can go to college, but they're going to be in the soup line and not be able to retire. If you use just stop funding expense, it's only going to use the client's set aside money that you've dedicated. You can obviously put this in for an event of long-term care and death if you're using what ifs. So again, that's really, really important. We're going to default to here. I'm going to show you how we can come back and do this. So now we have the education expense in, we have the dedicated investments that exist out there, we have the child in. The next thing is, how are we going to build out this plan? So we're going to come under plans and we're going to create a scenario. There's other versions of eMoney. eMoney did some updates. This is now called plans. If you're watching this a couple months down the road, it's the same thing in here. I like to put everything in alternatives. You'll see I have an alternative in here. I don't normally have this many. This is because it's a sample client. I like to play in here a lot. For the sake of this one, we're going to call this education, but typically I would go and I would build this out inside of alternatives, and then I would go and create a separate one called education where I copy and paste it. Want to know why? Search my other eMoney tip of the weeks, and I can show you why. But for this one, we're going to click here on an advanced plan. And this is where we're going to make changes to this. So we're going to make changes, and we're going to go under expense, and we're going to go to Cecilia's, and we're going to edit fact. Now we put this in here. I'm going to hit done just for right now because this is where I'm going to stop for this week's eMoney tip of the week. So we've done all the data input, and the next eMoney tip of the week, I'm going to come right where I left off here. I'm going to show you how we're going to mess around with Cecilia's. I'm going to show you how we're going to put Dwight's. There's a couple cool little tricks that you probably, I think, don't know how to do when it comes to these, and I think you're going to love it. We'll cover those next time, and I'm going to show you how you can present this. And spoiler alert, this is one of the only times I go into goals planner, which makes it goals-based planning, not cash flow-based planning. One of the only times. We hope this tip helped educate and empower you to do more plans for your clients so that you can impact more lives through financial planning. If you have some great tips we don't know about, we'd love to hear about them. If you have a better way of doing what we just showed you, we'd love to hear about that, because we are a noble profession, and together we can elevate the profession.